podcast. This is a little bit of a different episode today. This episode, I regret to inform you that Bob is not here. I know, it's really sad. And I'm actually kind of sick, so get used to that. I do have two guests with me, in fact. If you guys want to introduce yourself.
I am Josh Keefe. I am a lover of film and a good friend of Daniel's family. And Daniel.
Yeah, I'm Cade Walker. Same thing. We're all friends here.
Yay! So I guess what we'll be doing today is just reviewing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which we all seem to really like. I mean, I think we're in agreement of that.
Oh, yeah.
Just delve into some of our opinions a little bit more. So to start off, what were your, before you saw the film, what were your impressions, your expectations and stuff?
For me, I really loved the first one. It was very different in terms of as a Marvel movie. Mm-hmm. It redefined kind of how people do the sci-fi genre in a way, because we're so used to the sci-fi genre being taken so literal and very serious and over dramatic, and then Guardians of the Galaxy completely flips it on its head, and all of a sudden it's really funny, it's really jokey, it's really entertaining to watch. It's something new and fresh.
Yeah, it also had that human element in it with the soundtrack. It was more human music, Earth music.
Yeah, very retro.
Yeah, and all the characters had that human element. They were all flawed. So I think it made it more relatable in a way, and that ties into how it does change that sci-fi genre.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so based on your expectations and your love of the first one, how did that affect your reaction when seeing the second one?
When seeing the second one, I was looking forward to it, but not on the same level as I was with the first one. I really don't know why, but it was kind of a shock to me how really well done the second one was, because we saw it back to back in a theater screen.
A double feature.
It was a double feature, right? And so after seeing the first one, I was still really looking forward to it, but a little weary because of the way the action was filmed. It was very shaky in a couple of moments. It was very very dark in a couple spots. It felt very different to the theme of the movie. I'm talking about the first one.
Okay.
And so when I was going to the second one, I was a little bit, maybe, I really hope that they don't do that. I hope that they go with more of the lighthearted adventure action moments and really comedic tones.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Cade?
Yeah, so I actually didn't... I saw one teaser trailer for the movie. I didn't really see any trailers before seeing it, so I didn't have an expectation on what I wanted to see, or I didn't really think of what I wanted to see. I just kind of wanted something similar to the last movie, and I know before they had us, or they informed us that Peter Quill's heritage was going to be mentioned in this movie. I'm like, oh, that'll be cool. I wasn't really expecting what they did with the direction and making Ego the bad guy. I'm an avid comic reader, and I know who Ego is, and I think that was actually pretty clever of them to make him Peter Quill's dad. As a comic reader, Ego's a planet. Giving him human form was actually pretty smart on their part.
Mm-hmm.
I think they did a very good job in developing characters as well that weren't as developed in the first movie, such as Yondu, obviously. It was by far the most developed character that was neglected more or less in the first movie. Also, Nebula, she got more screen time in this movie.
Yeah, a lot more development.
Right. Yeah, so I think with character development and plot line, and I think those combined to fulfill what I wanted from this movie.
That's very cool. So I remember asking you guys at the end of the second time I think we all saw it, which one did you prefer, Volume 2 or the first one? What did you, how did you like it?
Yeah. I like the second one a lot more than the first one. I feel that it's very consistent with its tones, with its style, the comedy, the action. It's all very fluid. It's all very, very, very smooth. It has a certain flow to it that I don't believe the first one has. The first one was a perfect introduction to Guardians of the Galaxy, but now this is establishing its tone. This is saying, this is how we're going to show our characters, how we're going to grow our characters, how we're going to tell stories, how we're going to make you relate to the stories. I'm super excited for what they have in the future for the Guardians of the Galaxy movies and how they're going to implement that with Marvel, because right now it kind of seems way too different to be in the same universe.
Oh, yeah.
Almost.
There's
So,
so many different
which makes me
things.
really excited to see how they can tie it all up
Yeah.
in an interesting way that's not cliched.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, sorry, you want to go?
Yeah, so compared to the first movie, I liked both of them. Both of them are, I think they're probably my two favorite Marvel movies. You know, that different vibe that they give off. I think, you know, after thinking about it, I probably do like the second one better. It was a lot more clever. It was a little bit more comic accurate, and that's a big bonus for me as a comic reader. So I think I did like this. I did end up liking the second one better. So
Okay. I think I'm the oddball here because I really enjoyed the second one, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, the way that the movie just, I mean, like, it was overall it was a good movie, and like they had a great like comedic relief, and everything kind of, yeah, like you said, flowed really well. However, I don't know, I felt like they almost tried to cram so many subplots into it that, like, the main plot, you know, it's kind of spoiler, but his dad going bad.
Do we go into spoilers?
Yeah, this is, we can go all out. His dad, you know, being bad, really, kind of, you know, being really cliche and stuff like that. And I know I mentioned to you guys when we finished, I was like, yeah, it was really cliche, that whole turnaround, but I mean, the way they did it made it...
Yeah, it made it feel fresh.
Yeah. But for me, the first one, although the plot was pretty simple, it still left you asking questions throughout the movie. Like, how is this going to go about? This dude, even though he's this, you know, cliche evil villain, Ronan I'm talking about, how are they going to get this, you know, Infinity Stone? How is this whole going to work? You know,
because they're bouncing around all over the place.
Yeah.
It's constantly never in the same location. They're always traveling in distant areas in the galaxy and stuff.
Yeah, and they had their montage of the plan that they had and stuff like that in the first one. And so I personally like that a lot better than having, like, kind of like 3/4 ways into the movie, you know, you're like, oh, okay, like the moment, you know, like, oh, all right, I know what's going to happen. They're going to find a way to defeat him. You know, he's evil. They're going to find a way to defeat him. All right, the end. So I like being a little bit like throughout until the end. You know, kind of questioning things.
It wasn't as unpredictable.
Yeah. And so that's just for me personally. And the way that they set up each character in the first one was amazing. And they did have a lot of great character growth moments in the second one. But I felt almost they like tried cramming in too much.
Yeah.
Especially with this plot with, you know, Peter's dad and stuff like that. So, like, they had, you know, Rocket's, like, thing. They had Nebula and Gamora's thing. They had, sorry, I forget his name.
Yondu.
Yeah, Yondu's thing.
Yeah, Yondu with, that's Yondu with...
The Ravagers.
The Ravagers, yeah.
And then they had, you know, Peter and his dad's. And so I was like, well, when it all happens in so close in time in the movie, like these moments where these characters are like, you know, kind of having this moment.
So close and like to each other?
Yeah. Okay. And so it just didn't really work for me as well.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things that I didn't exactly like with what they did in this movie. That's one of my very few complaints with this film, is that it kind of gets very sappy in a couple of moments.
Yeah.
Where, like, there's that one part where Peter's playing ball, like, energy catch with his dad, which is pretty cool. But then, like, it kind of lingers on that shot for too long with this kind of music that leaves you thinking, like, something's gonna go wrong.
Yeah.
Or, like a joke's gonna be happening.
Yeah.
Or, like, not something is gonna go wrong with, like, the characters later on, like him being a maniacal villain. But more like they're going to throw the ball and it's going to crash into something and he's going to be like, oops. You know? I was kind of expecting that kind of a moment. It just felt very awkward and odd, as well as the part where Rocket is talking to Yondu.
Yeah.
And he's like, you are me. I was like, okay. It's a little fast. It felt rushed.
Yeah.
The character development with Rocket felt a little bit rushed.
Since they tried to cram so much.
Yeah, I feel like the Gamora and Nebula development was done perfectly.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that
one. I was like, and then also the fight between her and Gamora and Nebula is very beautiful shot.
Yeah.
Beautifully shot as well. There's very many wide shots. It's very simplistic. I don't know if you've seen those simplistic posters
Okay.
on like the internet where it's basically like shows like just basically the shapes and the outline. So it like shows like the
Yeah.
landscape, the character, and an object.
Yeah.
You see this a lot with the Star Wars posters, fan made stuff.
Okay.
But the way it's shot is very beautiful with like the colors and the size comparison between the ship that Nebula's driving around, and then Gamora like running away in the field and then into the cave. It has this nice wide shot where it's like looks like a Mario game where she's like running away while she's like shooting.
Yeah.
It's like I really like those kind of stuff because you don't see that in the other Marvel movies.
Yeah, no, that's
It's
really
all
true.
very kept in close. There's very few shots in the Marvel movies where I'm like, that was done really well.
Yeah.
In this movie, it was almost in every single action scene, it had one of those shots
Yeah.
that are just in like a few of the Marvel movies. So
They were really creative.
yeah, they were very creative. It wasn't just like, we'll put the camera over here. It's
Yeah.
like, how do we make this image a lot more interesting? How do we make it tell a story? How do we make it relate to the audience and to the characters? I love stuff like that.
Yeah, and about Nebula, as a comic reader, Nebula is probably the least comic accurate character in the entire movie, and between Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. In the comic, she's the granddaughter of Thanos, and she tries to get the Infinity Gauntlet for herself, and there's a couple weird things and issues that she has in the comics, and I didn't really like her in the comics very much, but when they introduced her as Gamora's sister, and they had these combat trials against each other when they were kids, and now she's a cyborg. I think they did that a lot better than how Marvel actually executed it originally in the comics. So the bonus for me is I like comic accuracy, but when they can do it better in the movie, in which they did with Nebula, I think that's a huge bonus for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
With-
fully agree with that.
Right. But with Mantis, I actually didn't like Mantis' character. I think she was probably my least favorite character in the movie. She was, a little cheesy and unintelligent. And I just don't know how... They already have an unintelligent character in Drax. So I think 2 would be a bit much. So, going into the future, Mantis in the comics is she's actually really powerful. She beat Thor at one point. So
Wow.
yeah, so I think she has a lot of potential. She's been in the Guardians of the Galaxy at points, so she has a lot of potential going into the future. But I
Well, yeah,
think
with dumbing her down,
she kind of dumbed her down and made her a little cheesy.
Yeah,
but they can fix it, I guess.
I kind of like the way they used her to kind of flesh out Drax's character a little bit more, other than being the big dumb guy.
Okay,
Than
yeah.
being like the big, go kill everything, really, like the walking thesaurus kill machine, basically. Yeah. I liked how they used her to explain a little bit about his past and his emotions and make him a little bit more funnier. I feel like that was fine enough for her character. If she actually does go in a direction where she starts fighting people like Thor and Hulk and stuff, then they should kind of upgrade. They should upgrade her and take her a little bit more seriously if they're going in that direction. Mm-hmm. If they're not, I'm fine with it because it worked for the movie, for me personally.
Right. Well, my concern is, in the comics she does have the empathic abilities, but her main power and what she used to defeat Thor is she can control plants to a degree, and that's actually the use of them in the comics was actually pretty intelligent, and I liked that. And they didn't really show that ability in this movie, and I didn't really think they had a chance to. I guess they could have, but they didn't really have much of a chance. But I hope they introduce that later. They can probably explain it pretty well. She was isolated on a world, and she wasn't able to develop her powers fully. But, I think I kind of wish that would have been introduced, as a comic accurate representation of the character.
Yeah. Now, there's one whole element that we haven't discussed so far through talking through the movie, and it's the gold people.
Oh yeah, the gold people.
The Sovereign. Yeah. So, what did you guys think of the Sovereign? Because I know there were some mixed reviews
I'll let you
about
go,
them.
Cade.
All right. Well, I think the Sovereign. I actually don't remember reading about the Sovereign too much in the comics, but I didn't mind them. They were a little cheesy. but I think they have a lot of potential, we saw in the Easter egg at the end of the movie, and one of the post-credit scenes, that they're going to be introducing Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock's original origin story, he was created on Earth to be the most genetically perfect human, and then a being called the High Evolutionary took him, and he evolved him further, and then he has an evil side and a good side. And I actually really liked Adam Warlock's origin story in the comics, so if they're just going to have him be this spawned by the High Evolutionary to destroy the Guardians, I don't know if I like that direction as much. Maybe they're going to do something else, but about the Sovereign as a whole, I think they were a little bit cheesy, but I think what they did with them at the beginning of the movie and they tied him at the end, I don't think it was a bad thing overall.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I didn't really think of them too much originally because all the hype surrounding, after watching the movie, you remember like the really good parts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So going back and remembering the scenes with just the Sovereign, the Gold People, yeah, they are kind of used a little bit too much in the movie. They're very kind of cliched. A couple of the jokes kind of fall flat, like when they were walking in the snow, and like the thing gets stuck.
Yeah.
I personally was kind of expecting it. It didn't really land with me.
Yeah, I expected that. I saw it coming.
Because like the music was so grand and everything, and this movie is it takes cliches and then makes them silly, and basically brings them out into the light. But one of the things I really liked about just character design, it's very minor, but I love the part where she's sitting down and then she stands up, and like what you thought was her hat was like stays on the throne. It was actually a part of the throne.
Yeah.
That shot, like that moment right there, is like one of the most moments that I've ever had in like a movie. Like it's such a small little detail.
Yeah.
It has no part, and it's not integral to the plot at all. It really doesn't relieve too much. Reveal to anything about the characters.
Yeah.
It's so small, but I love that little detail. It's like every single time I've been there, I've seen the movie. I've heard people like in the background or sitting around me just go like, "Oh, what?" Like they're really shocked. So I really liked that little part. But other than that, their dialogue is a little bit overdone. Like you suck, so and so. Like when he like they're this advanced alien race.
They're the cliche popular kids in high school.
And then they're like and then they're like talking to each other with like those type of terms. And I'm like, it works with other people's like Star-Lord or Rocket Raccoon, but with the Sovereign, I don't know, it felt a little bit out of place. But I loved the arcade style fighting machines, the drones. I loved that. I absolutely loved it.
It reminded me of Vegas.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. It's funny because they add like another layer to like the second, and they like there's so much in that if you think about it that they did. And, it could have gone a lot worse.
It could have.
Because, we do have our critiques. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, overall, it was a...
Yeah, since they're just, like, a small character in the movie, like, not as big as, like, say, Ego the Living Planet, I'm really fine with how they turned out. And it was cool to have somebody show up at the end of the movie. Like, they always have, like... They're always, like, fighting an army at the end. Uh-huh. Like, I feel like that... that was really smooth. It wasn't just like it would have been really terrible if Ego had like little minions that started fighting them in the core of his brain or something. Like I really was hoping that they wouldn't do that, and they didn't. Yeah. And they brought back the Gold People, and it was fun. It was. And on
that scene where they pop out of the jump.
Oh yeah.
And what's his name? The Sean Gunn's character, he sees them pop out of the jump,
and he's listening to that. What was the song?
Wham Bam Shang-a-Lang by Silver.
Oh yeah,
Ooh,
I loved that scene.
The soundtrack was great.
That scene was like one of the best scenes that I've seen recently. For me, it connected to me. I really don't know how. It was everything that I was looking for out of an action sequence. It was very well done. It was very well done.
I totally agree there. Now I have another question. So, what did you guys all think of Baby Groot?
Baby Groot?
Yeah.
You can go, Cade.
All right. Well, Baby Groot, initially I thought the concept was going to be kind of like, really cheesy. Oh, he's the the cute person that everyone like all the girls go crazy over. And,
It's like
oh,
the Disney.
he's so cute.
Yeah, it's like the cliche Disney princess sidekick, like the animal
Yeah.
sidekick.
Yeah.
Like Olaf.
yeah,
Yeah.
like Olaf or the pig or the chicken in Moana or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was what they were originally going to do, and they did it a little bit, but overall, actually, they did a really good job with Baby Groot. He did. I mean, he was actually he was a big part of the movie.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to overdo it a little bit, and they didn't, which was good. They're going to overdo it in the merchandise and stuff.
Yeah, the promotions. Ooh.
And in one of the extra or the after credit scenes showed that he's growing up into it. That scene was cool when they showed him as a teenager.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
That was funny.
Yeah,
How they did that was hilarious. But I mean, it shows he's actually going to be. It likely suggests that he's going to be back to what he was in the first movie, which was the big tree,
the more mature, fully developed tree humanoid. I really liked what they did with Groot. Is that they didn't really make him like super innocent in a way. Like they kept him with that whole kind of edge that Guardians of the Galaxy has, with like the scene where he grabs the toe, where they're like looking for the fin and he's like holding a toe. I was like, that's awesome, because like it's not just it shows that it's like Guardians of the Galaxy thing. It's not a Disney princess thing. It really shows a distinction between the two.
Yeah, and I had, well, I mean, at first I had a hard time, and through like after seeing the movie, I still did have a hard time with how the timing of his growth all works out, because I mean, like, in the end of the first Guardians of the Galaxy, he was in his pot, and he was kind of basically the upper body baby Groot, kind of. He didn't have legs yet. And then in the second one, you'd think it's like, I mean, however many years later, I don't know what the timeline is, but they kind of,
It was probably a couple months, like, just a reasonable guess. It was probably a couple months. And
so, like, and that end credit scene, I was wondering, so he's a teenager all of a sudden. I know they did that for comic relief and stuff, but, like, how does that all work? And I was like, I mean, their motivation, of course, is that they want to have a cute character, like you guys were saying, and that part, it probably was a big deal of, like, keeping him small in this movie, just to have a movie where they can merchandise something like that. And so I was like kind of thinking about it and was a little bit like, oh man, it doesn't really make too much sense. But I mean, there were some scenes in the movie that actually kind of made sense for him.
Oh yeah, they made it useful. They
didn't make him being,
they didn't make him a gimmick.
Entirely. And so I felt that kind of justified for it a little bit more than their only reason was to merchandise, which convinced me and made me a little bit more, okay with the decision.
Yeah, that was one of my one of the things that I wondered too with myself was like in the beginning, right after I watched the first Guardians of the Galaxy for the first time, I was wondering, why is he in a pot? Like like wouldn't he grow like really fast? Because the one scene like where he like in the prison break scene where he like stretches himself up, I'm like, couldn't he just and then his arm grew back in like less than a day.
Cut it off, yeah.
I was like, wouldn't he just like go back to full power? But I guess it makes sense that it's starting with like just a little twig.
I guess we can try to explain that. Well, Wolverine obviously has a healing factor in the comics, and the more of his flesh is taken off, the longer it takes for him to grow back.
Yeah.
So I guess you could explain it by saying, well, he was entirely blown up. He was, he was literally twigs.
Yeah.
So I guess it would take him longer. That's about all.
That's the justifying I used, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
All right, cool. I mean, do you guys have anything else that you took away from
the whistle scene, the Yondu whistle scene?
Yeah,
was unbelievably just so well done. I love how creative it was. I love the use of the music. I love everything about that scene. It's just so done. It's so well done. It's so well done.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Looking forward to future movies, there was an Easter egg in the movie and also in the end credit scene with Stan Lee and the Watchers.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He was like, and there was this one time where I was a Federal Express agent.
Yeah.
So basically, that's been a fan theory the whole time. Obviously, Stan Lee does his cameos, in the Avengers, where he's like superheroes in New York. It's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous, yeah.
So in this movie, he basically confirms that it's been the same guy every single movie, and he's in the credits. It listed him as the informant of the Watchers.
The informant of the Watchers.
So either he's he could possibly be a Watcher himself, or he could just be another cosmic being, which in the comics, the one above all, which is Jack Kirby, not Stan Lee, is basically the quote unquote god of the Marvel Universe. But they could easily replace it with Stan Lee, because Stan Lee makes all these cameos.
Yeah.
So he could be the one above all. He could be another possible comic character. In the comic character, he's called the Fulcrum. Basically, he's a cosmic bartender. or he could be a Watcher. He could be any of those three. Or he could just be, Stan Lee himself. So yeah, he could be any of those options. I think that was really cool how they did that.
Yeah.
Makes the fans think a little bit.
Yeah.
Wasn't there like in the animated Spider-Man series, wasn't there like an episode where Spider-Man meets Stan Lee?
Yes.
Where, like, takes him
He
to
was
like
a janitor or something, wasn't he?
That's in the new Spider-Man series. In the old one, he did actually meet Stan Lee.
Yeah, he like took him to his
but-
world or something.
Yeah. I don't remember that because that was a long time ago. But yeah, it was something like that. It's always cool how they incorporate Stan Lee.
Yeah, that
He's
always
an
stuck with me.
iconic human being.
Very, very iconic.
And then one last thing, the other end credit scene with Sylvester Stallone's character.
Oh yes, yeah.
All right. So, for those of you who don't know, as a comic reader, that is a reference to the other Guardians of the Galaxy team. There's two of them. The original Guardians of the Galaxy team. This Guardians of the Galaxy team wasn't actually the original one in the comics. The original one was founded by a character on Earth, Fantastic, who went to Alpha Centauri, aged in there for like 1,000 years, found Captain America seal, etc., etc. Anyways, they have one original Guardians of the Galaxy character already in the movies, or in the first movie, which was Yondu. Yondu, he could control his arrows, the same thing, and I really like that about Yondu. They took his comic character and made him better. It was comic accurate to his powers and everything else, but they, they embellished it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So the original Guardians of the Galaxy team that they referenced in the end credits had Stakar, which was Sylvester Stallone's character, which is Starhawk. They had Charlie 27, which is a soldier from Jupiter. He was a really tall guy. He was something like 8. He was huge in the movie. That's Charlie 27. And then they had Martin X, who was a character originally from Pluto. James Gunn actually posted a photo on Instagram a couple months ago, maybe a couple years ago, whenever they were writing the movie, who was going to be Star-Lord's dad. There were a lot of names on the list. I actually remember Ego being on the list, which is like, I don't know about that. So they had Galactus on there, they had Ego on there, and one of them was Martin X, and I'm like, no one's going to recognize that. But they made him a Ravager, so this Guardians of the Galaxy team is going to be... They might put him into future movies. James Gunn says he'd want to see this team in future movies. Kevin Feige's like, yeah, he has a lot of ideas, I don't know.
Yeah.
So that team would be Starhawk, Martin X, Charlie 27, and a couple other people.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and obviously Yondu's dead, so he can't be in the team. But he was originally.
I'm looking forward to that if they end up actually going through with that, because that's like a Marvel Expendables movie.
Yeah.
Oh my
Like,
word.
that would be
that's what I was
awesome.
thinking. I
Yeah.
don't think they would get a high grade actor like Sylvester Stallone
And just
for
waste
just
it for like a...
for just like 60 seconds of screen time.
Yeah, and I feel like James Gunn did like that after credit scene, just so like kind of like how Ryan Reynolds did the test screening of Deadpool,
Mm-hmm.
to like get fans worked up about like Deadpool, and all of a sudden like
Yeah.
they're forced to do a Deadpool movie.
Mm.
I feel like that's what James Gunn's doing, because I think he really wants to do a second Guardians of the Galaxy or whatever, like the Expendables in Marvel Universe.
They could just
or
call them
something.
the Ravagers.
The Ravagers, yeah. So I think he really wants to do that, which would be really really cool.
Now I have a question. So do you guys think Sean Gunn's character? Do you think he might do something in the future movies? Because that last end credit scene with him shooting Drax with the arrow, that might have. Do you think they might incorporate him, give him some practice, and make him the second Yondu?
Ooh.
Or do you think that was
yeah.
because originally, actually, I read this. Sean Gunn and Kevin Feige both confirmed that scene was actually originally in the script. It wasn't something that they just tacked on.
Yeah, so like
Okay.
if they tacked on the whole Sylvester Stallone Ravagers scene, then and they had that other scene scripted, then it obviously means that they're going to do something with his character in the future. They have plans for it. I don't know if he's gonna.
And
be
what
like
if
a
he
huge
joins the
character.
Ravagers team?
That would be awesome. Like he was like a little intern type of Ravager guy. That would be funny. That'd be really funny.
I think
I'd
that
like
could totally work if they did
Yeah,
that.
like
Yeah.
they'd call him like Little Yondu or
Oh
something.
my god.
Yeah. No, I like that idea a lot. If he joined the Ravagers team or something like that, and I wouldn't mind him sticking around. I thought he did great in Volume 2, so I thought he even though he was a smaller character, he worked really well with Yondu and just helping the team out with the ship and stuff.
He was always a loyal guy.
Yeah, and so
His most memorable line for me was actually in the first movie. Captain's got to teach stuff.
You gotta teach stuff. Yeah, he's James Gunn's brother. In case anybody didn't know.
they have the same last name for a reason. Yeah.
Spelled the exact same way.
All right. Well, I mean, I think we've all said what we had to say. And
Cade, what's your favorite line?
I was actually going to try and bring that up. My favorite line in the whole movie was when the ship blew up with Yondu and Nebula on it, and they were falling, and Yondu was holding on by his arrow. And he's like, Yondu, you look like Mary Poppins. Is he cool? Yeah, he's cool. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
I love that part. And while we're on that scene where they're like dropping down, that shot where it's like 360 and it shows all the Guardians of the Galaxy in this epic pose while there's like fire surrounding them, rockets on like a little what is it called, a jetpack, yeah. And Mantis is like on the floor, and it shows like this ultra cool pose with the cinematic music blaring. I'm like, yes. And all of a sudden, Mantis gets hit in the head with something,
like a rock.
Yeah, like a rock. And then Drax is like, Mantis, look out! But that whole scene is like, that is the epitome of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
You have the cliched, but in a creative way. The whole 360. That's Avengers thing. The whole epic shot of everybody there. And then you have the Guardians of the Galaxy making fun of it with Mantis getting hit in the head, and then him saying, "Look, Mantis, look out!" I love that part.
Yeah,
absolutely love it.
Yeah,
I think that's all.
Yeah, that's all. All right,
all
very good. Oh, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being on the show. We're really glad that you could come and talk and replace Bob for a day. So. All right, well, thanks again for coming, and I guess you can check us out on Twitter at GoshDanielPod, and we also have a Patreon in case you wanted to know that.
Okay.
And we have our two Patreons that I have to give a shout-out to, Myron Smith and Hunt the Bunt Gunther. Don't ask. Yeah, and you can also find us on YouTube if you're listening on iTunes, and iTunes if you're listening on YouTube, or Stitcher. Yeah, we have all of those. Really cool. And I guess the link will be in the summary. The links will be in the summary or whatever. All right, thank you guys one last time for your opinions and stuff like that.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And I guess we'll see you hopefully when you're listening on the next episode, right?
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Bye.